In a household with multiple people who all feed the dog, walk the dog, and love the dog equally, there's almost always one person the dog quietly chooses above everyone else. The one they orient toward in a crowded room. The one they seek out when frightened. The one whose footsteps they recognize before the door even opens. This is not random. It is not simply about who spends the most time with them. It is the outcome of a specific, well-documented psychological process, and understanding it tells you something real about how your dog's mind actually works. Attachment is not distributed equally. The starting point for understanding this is recognizing that dogs, like human infants, form what attachment researchers call a primary attachment figure, a single individual who occupies a categorically different role than everyone else in their social world, regardless of how many other people they know and like. This concept comes directly from attachment theory, originally developed by psychologist John Bowlby to describe the bond between human infants and their caregivers, and later extended through rigorous research to the dog-human relationship. The core finding is consistent across decades of study. Attachment is not something an animal distributes evenly across every available relationship. It concentrates, it selects, and once it selects, the difference in behavior toward that one person versus everyone else becomes measurable and significant. A 2013 study published in PLOS One placed dogs through a version of the strange situation procedure, originally designed to study infant attachment to caregivers, using the dog's owner, a familiar person, and a stranger. Dogs consistently sought comfort during distress from their primary attachment figure specifically, not from whichever person happened to be present or most familiar. The selection was individual, specific, and consistent across repeated trials, even when the stranger or familiar person behaved in a comforting, non-threatening manner throughout the procedure. Why one person and not several? The obvious next question is why this concentrates on one individual instead of spreading across multiple trusted people equally. The answer has to do with how the canine nervous system uses attachment functionally, not just emotionally. A primary attachment figure serves a specific regulatory purpose. They are the safe base a dog explores from and the safe haven a dog returns to under stress. For this system to work efficiently, the dog's nervous system benefits from having one clear, reliable reference point rather than several competing ones. Multiple equally weighted attachment figures would create ambiguity in exactly the moments when clarity matters most, during fear, uncertainty, or threat, when a fast, unambiguous decision about where safety lies has genuine survival value. This mirrors what is observed in human-infant attachment as well. Children in multi-caregiver households still typically form a primary attachment to one individual, even when several people provide loving, competent care. The nervous system seems to be built to concentrate this specific function rather than diffuse it, likely because a single, clear anchor point produces faster and more reliable regulation than several competing ones would. Evolutionarily, a young animal that hesitates between multiple potential sources of safety during a genuine threat pays a real survival cost. A single, unambiguous attachment figure resolves that hesitation before it can become dangerous. What determines who gets chosen? If concentration is inevitable, the next question is what determines which specific person becomes the one? Research points towards several converging factors rather than any single deciding variable. Consistency of presence during the dog's most formative period matters significantly. Puppies and newly adopted dogs go through developmental windows in which their attachment system is particularly active and impressionable. The person most consistently present, particularly during the first several months in a new environment, has a structural advantage in becoming the primary attachment figure simply because of the volume and consistency of positive interaction during a neurologically sensitive period. Responsiveness matters as much as raw time spent together, and in many cases matters more. Research on attachment across species consistently finds that the quality and reliability of response to bids for connection predicts attachment security more strongly than sheer quantity of contact. A person who is present for many hours but inconsistently responsive produces a weaker attachment bond than a person present for fewer hours but reliably attentive during that time. The emotional regulation the person brings to the relationship plays a documented role as well. Because dogs are co-regulators, their nervous system calibrating itself to the emotional state of their attachment figure, a person with a calmer, more stable emotional baseline tends to become a more effective and more sought-after regulatory anchor than a person whose emotional presentation is less predictable, even if the less predictable person is deeply loving. And the specific quality of physical interaction matters. We have covered throughout this series how touch quality, voice tone, and the degree to which a person reads and respects a dog's signals all contribute to how safe that person feels to be around. A person who reliably reads the dog's comfort level and responds appropriately builds a different kind of trust than a person whose interactions, however affectionate, are less attuned. The neuroscience behind the selection. Once a primary attachment figure is established, the difference in how the dog's brain processes that person versus everyone else is not just behavioral, it is structural. Research from Eötvös Loránd University using fMRI scanning found that dogs process their primary attachment figure's voice in brain regions associated with reward and emotional significance differently than they process other familiar voices. Separate research using the same imaging technology found that dogs show greater activation in the caudate nucleus, the brain's anticipation and reward center, in response to their primary person's scent specifically, compared to the scent of other familiar or unfamiliar humans. This means the selection is not simply a behavioral preference that could shift easily with circumstance. It is encoded, at least in part, into how the dog's brain has organized itself around that specific individual. The primary attachment figure occupies a distinct neurological category, not just a favored position within an undifferentiated group of liked people. This is part of why the bond can feel so stable and so resistant to casual disruption once it has taken hold. It is not merely a preference sitting on the surface of the dog's behavior, but something wired into how their brain has learned to categorize the people around them. Does the chosen person ever change? This is a common and important question, particularly for families wondering whether their dog's clear preference for one household member is permanent. The evidence suggests attachment figures can shift, particularly in response to significant changes in the relationship dynamics of a household. One person becoming significantly less available due to work or travel, another person becoming significantly more consistently present and responsive, or a major life transition that reorganizes who provides the most reliable care and attention. This shift is not usually sudden. It tends to occur gradually over months as the balance of consistency, responsiveness, and emotional regulation shifts between the people in the dog's life. It is also not universal. Some dogs show a very stable, apparently permanent preference for one person regardless of changing circumstances, particularly if that bond was established during an especially formative period, such as early puppyhood or a significant rescue and rehabilitation experience. This should be reassuring for people whose dog seems to favor someone else in the household. The bond is not fixed by fate. It is built continuously through the accumulation of consistency, responsiveness, and emotional safety, which means it is also something that can be built or strengthened over time through the same mechanisms that created it in the first place. What this means if you are not the chosen one. If your dog has clearly selected someone else in your household as their primary attachment figure, this is worth understanding without taking it personally, because the mechanism behind it is not really about who loves the dog more. It reflects a specific pattern of consistency, responsiveness, and regulatory presence that has accumulated over time, often shaped by factors that are practical and circumstantial as much as they are emotional, who happen to be home more during a critical developmental window, whose schedule allowed for more consistent daily interaction, whose natural temperament happened to align more closely with what the dog's nervous system found calming. None of this means the dog does not love or trust other people in the household. Secondary attachment relationships are real, valuable, and provide genuine comfort and connection. But the primary bond functions differently, and understanding why it exists the way it does can help take the sting out of not being the one, while also clarifying exactly what would be required to build toward it if that is something you genuinely want. The path is the same one that built the existing bond in the first place. Increased consistency, increased responsiveness to bids for connection, however small. A calmer, more predictable emotional presence, touch and interaction that consistently reads and respects the dog's signals. None of this happens instantly, but the mechanism is not mysterious and it is not closed off simply because someone else currently holds the position. Your dog did not choose randomly. They chose the person whose presence, over time, proved itself the most reliably worth trusting. That position is not fixed forever. It is built every single day the same way it always has been. Drop a comment. I read every single one. Subscribe. New video every week. See you next time.